Royals have been marrying their cousins since time immemorial, traditionally as a means of strengthening political alliances. What might be surprising, though, is that members of the royal family have continued to marry their cousins right up to the present day. One, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, first cousins. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert were first cousins, having shared the same grandfather, Francis, Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Victoria was the daughter of Francis's daughter, Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Albert was the son of Francis's son, Ernest III, Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Fun fact, the match between Victoria and Albert was encouraged, if not made, by their mutual uncle Leopold, the second son and third child of Francis. 2. King George IV and Caroline of Brunswick, first cousins. Just one generation prior, Queen Victoria's uncle, King George IV, married his first cousin Caroline. George IV was the son of King George III, who was the younger brother of Princess Augusta Frederica. Caroline was the daughter of Princess Augusta Frederica. Sharing a grandfather, King George III, George IV and Caroline were first cousins. However, unlike Victoria and Albert, George IV and Caroline did not have a fruitful or a happy marriage. In fact, they married in 1795 and had permanently separated for good by 1796. 3. King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra, third cousins. Like his mother, Queen Victoria, King Edward VII also married his cousin, albeit a more distant one. In 1863, Edward VII, who was then known as Prince Albert Edward, married Alexandra of Denmark. Edward, born Albert Edward, was the son of Queen Victoria, who was the great-granddaughter of King George III, who was the son of King George II. Accordingly, King Edward VII was a great-great-grandson of King George II. Queen Alexandra, born Alexandra of Denmark, was a great-great-granddaughter of King George II. Her great-grandmother, Princess Mary, was George II's daughter. 4. King George V and Queen Mary, second cousins. Like his father, King Edward VII, and his grandmother, Queen Victoria, King George V married his cousin, in this case, his second cousin, Mary of Teck. George V, being the son of King Edward VII, was the great-grandson of King George III. Mary, Queen Mary, born Mary of Teck, was a great-granddaughter of King George III. Her mother, Princess Mary Adelaide of Cambridge, was George III's granddaughter. Her father was one of George III's youngest sons, Prince Adolphus of Cambridge. Sharing a great-grandparent made George V and Mary second cousins. 5. Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, third cousins. Both Queen Elizabeth II and her husband, Prince Philip, can call Queen Victoria great-great-grandmum, which makes them third cousins. Elizabeth is the great-granddaughter of King Edward VII, Queen Victoria's son. Philip's great-grandmother was Princess Alice, Queen Victoria's daughter. 6. King George VI and Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, 13th cousins. Queen Elizabeth II's parents were King George VI and Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, who, as King George VI's wife, became Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, both of whom are descendants of Henry Tudor, who became King Henry VII. King Henry VII was the 12th great-grandfather of both King George VI and Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon. But whereas George descended from Henry's daughter Mary, Elizabeth descended from Henry's daughter Margaret. 7. Henry VII and Elizabeth of York, third cousins. The relative from whom both King George VI and Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon descended, King Henry VII, himself married his cousin Elizabeth of York, who shared a great-great-grandparent, John of Gaunt, Duke of Lancaster, which makes them third cousins. Elizabeth of York descended from John of Gaunt's daughter, Joan Beaufort, and King Henry VII descended from John of Gaunt's son, John Beaufort. 8. Charles and Diana, seventh cousins. Prince Charles and his first wife, born Lady Diana Spencer, who eventually was styled as Diana Princess of Wales, were seventh cousins once removed via William Cavendish, 3rd Duke of Devonshire. Prince Charles descended from a son of the 3rd Duke, William, 4th Duke of Devonshire. The late Princess of Wales descended from a daughter of the 3rd Duke, Lady Elizabeth Cavendish. 9. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, 11th cousins. Although Catherine Middleton is considered a commoner, in that she isn't a peer of the Queen-based Britain's peerage system, she is actually related to her husband, Prince William, albeit distantly. They are 11th cousins once removed via Sir William Blackiston, a baronet, whose peerage Catherine was not eligible to inherit. 10. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Who would have thought that Meghan Markle is actually a distant cousin of Prince Harry? It's true. Meghan is apparently a descendant of King Edward III through her father, Thomas Markle. That side of her family includes Reverend William Skipper, who came to the US in 1639. Given Meghan's royal ancestor, she and Harry are 17th cousins.